I think that there are definitely very strong stereotypes about black women in particular. What would you guys say some of those stereotypes are? Tough, okay. And sort of more negative side of that toughness would be angry, definitely angry, or that they have attitude. And if you look at some of the TV representations of black women, it's really not surprising why so many people believe this, because you've got so many characters, like up on this slide, you've got the nurse from Scrubs. I feel like that archetype of a character is almost on every single show, where she's the sort of a little older, overweight woman who's in a somewhat subordinate position. She's an assistant or a nurse or a housekeeper, and she has a lot of attitude, and she's always very sarcastic and peers over her glasses at you. It makes you feel stupid. And that's the kind of character that you see over and over again. And so it's not surprising that a lot of people kind of absorb this and think that, well, the black woman at my job is probably like that as well. And actually, this I actually saw this manifested at a job that I used to be at. I used to work at this publishing company in the ad sales department, and we had an office manager who was an African-American woman, and for some reason my boss just hated her. She thought that this woman was, had the worst attitude. She felt like she was angry all the time, and she ended up actually firing her. And about 4 years later, I caught up with this boss again, and we were chatting, and she said, "Oh, I just heard some news about the woman, the old office manager." And I said, "Oh, what?" And she said, "Oh, she actually passed away from cancer." And so I thought back to it, and I thought, she probably had cancer when we were working together, and she was probably depressed and sort of dealing with a lot of issues, but instead of sort of looking at what could be going on, my boss just sort of labeled her as, she's just this angry black woman that we need to get rid of. When in reality, maybe she needed help and she needed some kind of outreach in terms of whether it was, both physical and mental health. And so, that goes to show how some of these stereotypes can exist. And another thing that I hear a lot from people who write into my blog, Race in the Workplace, is, I ran this story about a black woman who complained that basically all of her coworkers would always say that you need to smile more, you need to smile more. And that blog post got such just a huge amount of responses from other black women who had had the same experiences, where one in particular said that she went on a job interview, and afterwards she ended up not getting the job, and she heard some feedback through the recruiter about why that they thought that she wasn't a good fit. And basically the recruiter said that she didn't smile enough. Now, in the interview, she not only smiled, but she and the person interviewing her actually shared laughter. So she not only smiled, but they laughed together, and yet, despite of that, there was still this impression that, oh, she just doesn't smile, she's just this angry, angry woman. So, unfortunately, racial stereotypes tend to, pervade the workplace to the extent where people are kind of blind to the reality and they just see what they want to see. Let's talk about why positive stereotypes can be harmful too. I think that we don't really need to get into why negative stereotypes are harmful. I think that's pretty self-evident. But isn't it a good thing if there's a certain positive stereotype about your racial or ethnic group? Can't you kind of benefit from that? And the answer is, yeah, you can benefit from it, but it also causes a lot of problems in the workplace. And so one of those problems is that it can result in a halo effect. And a halo effect is when a supervisor overlooks an employee's poor performance because she's already decided that this employee is really good. And so, for example, how this relates to race would be, for example, there is an Asian American employee who is actually kind of a subpar performer. And the other people in his department are actually better at the job than he is, but because the supervisor has really bought into this idea that Asians are really hard workers, that they're really quiet, and they really know what they're doing, they're really smart, the supervisor may actually overlook some of the problem areas that this employee has and maybe favor that employee over other people. Now, on the surface, this seems like a good thing for the Asian employee, but then if you think about it, all of us at every single job need to develop and grow, and all of us have areas that we need to work on. So when it comes down to getting your performance evaluated, of course we want the most positive performance evaluation we can get, but at the same time, if there are things that you need to be working on, you want to know about that so that you can improve and get continually better. And so if you're receiving this halo effect, then you're probably not getting accurate feedback on your performance, and so that can cause a problem for you down the line. So the topic today is recognizing racial stereotypes and their impact in the workplace. And so I guess the first question is, why is this even a part of the Career Center's programming? And I think that it's important for those of you who are going to be entering the workforce soon, or who have already had some experience in the workforce, to really understand how people may be perceiving you. Because we'd like to think that America, the workforce, is a meritocracy, but unfortunately there are all these unspoken dynamics that enter the way people are going to perceive you, the way they're going to interact with you. And if you really want to be as successful as you can be, it's probably better off to understand what some of those are, just so that you're aware of them. And also, to kind of examine some of these beliefs that you may hold yourself about people of other ethnicities, whether it's consciously or on a subconscious level. So the main message I really want you to take away from this workshop is that racial stereotypes are really all around us. And it's really impossible to not be affected by them, because we're just constantly bombarded with these images from the media, a lot of offhand comments that people make, and there's a lot of assumptions that go unchallenged. And whether you realize it or not, we're all absorbing these messages and really internalizing them.